Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. Have you ever felt a kind of loneliness so deep that it no longer felt like emptiness, but like transformation? The kind that doesn't ache in your chest anymore. It burns quietly, like something inside you is rearranging itself. You start losing interest in things that once felt essential. The noise of the world becomes unbearable. Small talk feels hollow. And the people you used to run to now feel miles away, even when they're right beside you. It's not because you become cold. It's not because you're broken. It's because your soul has begun to grow out of its old skin. Carl Jung once said that loneliness doesn't come from being alone, it comes from being surrounded by people who can't understand the truth that's unfolding inside you. And maybe right now, that's exactly where you are. You're evolving, but no one told you that growth can look like silence. That healing can look like distance. That finding yourself can feel, at first, like losing everyone else. You try to explain it, but words fall short. You say you're just tired or needing space, but what you really mean is, I don't recognize myself anymore. And that's terrifying, isn't it? Because for so long you've defined yourself by who you loved, who you pleased, who you tried to save. And now, none of that feels real. But what if this isn't the end of something? What if this is your beginning, the sacred unraveling before rebirth? Because loneliness isn't always a punishment. Sometimes, it's the call to return home to yourself. If you've ever sat in the dark wondering why no one seems to see you anymore, this is for you. If you've ever felt like you're disappearing into your own silence, stay. You're not fading, you're transforming. Take a deep breath. Let's walk through this together. Because maybe, just maybe, this loneliness isn't your breaking point, it's your awakening. And if these words touch a place you've been afraid to look at, stay close. There's a reason you found this message today. If you're new here, and this resonates with the part of you that craves meaning more than noise, subscribe, stay, breathe. This space is for the ones who feel too much, think too deeply, and love even when it hurts. You're not alone in your loneliness. You're evolving, and sometimes evolution sounds like silence. There comes a moment when the world you've built, the one that kept you safe, starts to fall apart quietly. Not with explosions or dramatic endings, but with subtle cracks in the surface. You wake up one morning and realize that conversations you used to enjoy now drain you. The laughter that once filled the room now echoes like background noise. You scroll through your messages and see names that used to bring you comfort, yet your heart doesn't move. You think, what's wrong with me? But maybe nothing's wrong. Maybe something's right for the first time in a long while. Because this kind of loneliness, the one that doesn't come from being abandoned but from outgrowing your own surroundings, is sacred. It's the loneliness of a caterpillar before it becomes a butterfly. You're not meant to fit where you once belonged. You're not meant to stay in spaces where your soul can't breathe. Yet no one prepares you for this silence. No one tells you that the path to self-understanding often begins with loss. Loss of people, loss of certainty, loss of the illusion that you can keep everyone and still find yourself. You try to hold on, you really do. You send the text, you reach out. You tell yourself, maybe I'm just overthinking. But deep down, something whispers, you can't go back. Because once your consciousness expands, the smallness of your old life suffocates you. You begin noticing how much of yourself you've given away, how often you laughed when you didn't feel joy, how many times you said yes when your heart screamed no. You realize that for years, you've been performing a version of yourself that kept others comfortable, while your true self waited quietly beneath the surface. And when that mask begins to slip, you panic. You try to glue it back on. You try to be the person everyone expects. But it doesn't stick anymore. Your smile starts to feel heavy. The world around you feels artificial. And so you withdraw not out of rejection, but because your soul demands honesty now. That's the first sign of evolution. When peace becomes more important than approval. When solitude feels more nourishing than shallow connection. But this new solitude is not easy. It's a mirror. It reflects everything you've avoided: the wounds, the memories, the fears. You sit in your room and realize how much noise you used to create just to avoid hearing your own thoughts. Now, in the stillness, they echo back with honesty that feels almost too raw to bear. And yet, within that rawness lies something holy. Because when everything external falls away, when there's no one left to validate you, no title to hide behind, no relationship to distract you, you finally meet yourself. You see the child who never felt enough. You see the teenager who built walls just to feel safe. You see the adult who kept running from their reflection. And in that moment you understand, the loneliness wasn't life punishing you. It was life trying to give you back to yourself. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel lost. Those are sacred signs that something inside you is waking up, that you're no longer numb, that you're alive. And as you sit there, wondering when this ache will fade, I want you to remember this: every soul that has ever evolved has passed through this silence. Even those who seem strong, radiant, wise, they too once sat in the dark, questioning if they'd ever belong again. You are not broken. You are becoming. So breathe. Let the old layers fall away, even if it hurts. Because on the other side of this loneliness is a kind of freedom that can't be described, it can only be felt. And someday, when someone else is drowning in their own silence, you'll look them in the eyes and say, "I know, I've been there." And you'll mean it. When the noise fades, you begin to hear yourself for the first time. Not the voice shaped by fear or the one that pleases others, but the quiet one that whispers beneath it, all the one that's been waiting patiently for you to come home. At first, that silence feels unbearable. You might fill it with distractions, music too loud, work too heavy, scrolling through endless feeds, hoping something, anything, will numb the ache. But the truth is, silence has its own gravity. The more you resist it, the stronger it pulls you in. And eventually, you surrender. You stop running. You stop pretending. You sit there and let it all surface: the grief you never named, the anger you swallowed, the heartbreak that reshaped you in ways you never acknowledged. You remember the moments you were unseen, the love you begged for but never received, the times you said, "I'm fine," because you didn't want to be a burden. And now, here it is, all of it, asking to be felt. Not fixed, not analysed, just felt. That's when healing begins. Not when you understand your pain, but when you allow yourself to finally feel it. It's in this sacred stillness that you start to rebuild your relationship with yourself. You begin to notice your own breath. You start talking to yourself with kindness instead of criticism. You learn to be your own witness, the one who doesn't leave when things get hard. There's beauty in that, though it doesn't look like the kind the world celebrates. No one claps for you when you choose peace over attention. No one congratulates you for deleting a message you know would reopen an old wound. No one sees the strength it takes to sit in your loneliness without trying to escape it. But that's where your power lives, in the invisible quiet choices, the ones that rewrite the way you exist. You start to see how much of your life was built around not being alone, the relationships you held on to even when they hurt, the way you overgave just to feel needed, the way you accepted less because you thought loneliness was worse than pain. But now, you see it differently. You begin to understand that loneliness isn't the absence of connection. It's the call to real connection. The kind that doesn't demand you shrink. The kind that doesn't require performance. The kind that starts with you. You begin to spend time with yourself without the weight of judgment. You make tea and sit by the window, not to fill time, but to listen to your own rhythm. You start to notice the sky again, the way light moves across the floor, the sound of your breath when it steadies. And slowly, the silence that once scared you becomes the silence that soothes you. Because now you understand there's a difference between being lonely and being alone. Loneliness is craving yourself while avoiding your truth. Aloneness is embracing your own presence as sacred. This is the shift Jung was pointing to, the moment when you realize that your isolation isn't punishment, it's initiation. You're shedding the parts of yourself that were built for survival so you can make space for the parts made for living. You start forgiving yourself for staying too long, for caring too much, for silencing your own needs. You stop blaming yourself for not knowing better, because now you do. And that knowing is everything. You begin to feel small sparks of peace, tiny moments where the world feels softer. You catch yourself smiling at nothing in particular. You notice that your heart, once heavy, now feels spacious. You realize you no longer crave validation from those who never understood you. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. You start protecting your energy not out of fear, but out of reverence. You understand that not everyone deserves access to your inner world. You stop explaining your silence to people who never listen to your words. You start to choose yourself not because you've stopped caring, but because you finally understand that caring for yourself is not selfish, it's sacred. And then something beautiful happens. You stop chasing. You stop begging for people to stay. You let them go with grace, not bitterness. Because now you understand that the right souls will meet you where you've arrived, not where you used to be. This is the quiet joy of evolution. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's subtle, grounded, and deeply human. And when you look around and realize your circle has become smaller, your days quieter, your nights softer, you'll understand that loneliness didn't destroy you. It introduced you to yourself. There comes a night when you look around and realize you no longer ache for what you lost. The people who left no longer haunt you, and the silence that once felt unbearable now feels like a friend who speaks in whispers. You've stopped asking why things happen the way they did. You've stopped fighting the emptiness. And in that surrender, something extraordinary happens. You begin to feel alive again. Not in the way you used to, chasing distractions or validation, but in a way that feels raw and real. You start to taste the sweetness of your own company. You begin to see that peace was never outside of you. It was waiting, hidden beneath the noise of everything you thought you needed. This is the quiet rebirth. Jung spoke of the awakening that doesn't come from joy, but from loss. The kind of growth that happens when the soul says, enough, and tears down every illusion that kept you asleep. You start noticing things you never did before. How the air feels different in the early morning. How certain songs bring tears for no reason at all. How your body feels lighter when you stop carrying guilt that was never yours to hold. You begin to sense a strange kind of gratitude for the heartbreaks, the endings, even the betrayals. Because without them, you might never have learned who you truly are. You see now that pain was never punishment. It was a teacher in disguise. It stripped away your false identities, the masks you wore to be loved, the lies you told yourself to feel safe. It broke you open so the light could finally enter. And as that light fills the spaces that once felt hollow, you begin to understand that solitude isn't empty. It's full of presence. It's full of truth. It's full of the kind of clarity you can't find when you're surrounded by noise. There's a peace that comes when you stop running from yourself, when you stop trying to explain your worth to those who never saw it, when you stop proving your softness in a world that mistakes gentleness for weakness. You start living differently. You speak slower. You listen deeper. You feel more. You no longer crave to be understood. You crave to be real. You stop chasing closure and start practicing acceptance. You understand that healing isn't a destination. It's a lifelong relationship with your own soul. And the most beautiful part? You realize you don't need to be fixed. Because there was never anything wrong with you. You were just trying to bloom in a garden that didn't recognize your seed. Now, you grow differently. You protect your peace the way you once protected your pain. You no longer confuse attention with love. You no longer confuse busyness with worth. You let people have their opinions, but you no longer let them define you. You start attracting differently too. People who speak softly, not because they're weak, but because they understand the power of silence. People who love without conditions, who see you not for what you do, but for who you are. You learn that true connection doesn't demand performance. It feels like ease. Like two souls recognizing each other in a crowd. Like coming home. And you realize that maybe this was the purpose of your loneliness all along, to empty you of what wasn't real, so you could make space for what is. To teach you that your value isn't in being needed, but in being whole. You start saying no with grace, and yes with clarity. You stop chasing love and start becoming love. You start finding beauty in small moments, the way sunlight touches your face, the way laughter returns to your body after years of silence. You begin to live as if you belong to yourself, because you do, and somewhere along the way, you realize the loneliness never left it, simply changed shape. It became solitude, it became self-respect, it became peace. You're not the person you were before the silence. You're softer but stronger, wiser but more open. You've learned that real strength isn't about armor, it's about truth. And when people look at you now and wonder how you can stand so still in a world that never stops moving, you'll smile gently, knowing the answer isn't in words, it's in presence. It's in the way you carry your stillness like a flame that doesn't flicker in the wind. Because once you've found home within yourself, the world can't take that from you. There's a moment, almost imperceptible, when you realize that your heart no longer clenches at the thought of being misunderstood. You no longer ache to be seen by those who never looked deeply enough to begin with. You move through your days with a quiet grace, no longer proving, no longer performing, just being. The world that once felt too loud, too cruel, begins to soften around you, not because it changed, but because you did. You've built a different kind of strength now, the kind that doesn't need defense. The kind that knows peace isn't found in the absence of pain, but in the acceptance of it. And so, slowly, you begin to return to life, not as the person who left it, desperate to find meaning in others, but as someone who carries meaning within themselves. You start to open your heart again, but this time, gently, deliberately, without the desperation to be completed. You begin to love differently. You no longer look for mirrors that reflect your wounds. You look for souls that honor your growth. You stop chasing intensity and start valuing stability. You begin to see that love isn't the fire that burns you alive, it's the warmth that lets you rest. You find yourself sitting across from someone new, maybe a friend, maybe a lover, and for the first time, you're not afraid to show the quiet parts of yourself. You speak slowly with honesty. You no longer rush to fill the silence. You no longer shape your words to be liked. And in that stillness, you see something beautiful. You are finally being met. Not for the mask, but for the truth. It's strange, isn't it? How loneliness once felt like death, and now it feels like the soil from which your life has bloomed. You understand now that you had to lose the crowd to find your voice. You had to let go of belonging everywhere to finally belong somewhere real, even if that somewhere is within you. And as you move through the world, you notice others who carry that same quiet ache, the ones smiling through invisible pain, the ones who feel too much. And without words, you recognize each other. Because once you've met yourself in the dark, you can never look at another soul without seeing their light too. You start to offer presence instead of advice. You start to listen with empathy instead of judgment. You realize that the world doesn't need more people who pretend to have it all together. It needs more people who've made peace with their own unraveling. You've become that kind of person now. The one who can sit beside someone's chaos and not need to fix it. The one who can hold space for another's silence without feeling uncomfortable. The one who loves quietly, deeply, without needing to be seen. That's what evolution does. It doesn't make you louder, it makes you softer. It doesn't make you untouchable, it makes you unshakable. Because when you've walked through your own fire, you stop fearing the flames. You stop needing to prove your worth to anyone. You stop needing the world to understand you. And in that freedom, you begin to live with a lightness you've never known. You wake up grateful not because life is perfect, but because you no longer need it to be. You've made peace with the imperfections. You've learned to find beauty in the ordinary. Some days you still feel the echo of your old loneliness, but now it feels different, softer, familiar. It no longer hurts, it hums. It reminds you that you are alive, that you have depth, that your heart has known both breaking and mending and still chooses to open. That is the mark of true evolution, not the absence of pain, but the presence of peace. And when you walk now, you carry a quiet power. You move through the world not as someone trying to prove their place, but as someone who knows they belong wherever they stand. Your boundaries are firm but kind. Your love is generous but discerning. Your silence is sacred, not sad. You've learned that being alone was never your enemy. It was your teacher. It showed you what love is supposed to feel like: safe, soft, unforced. And when the world sees your calm and calls it strength, you'll know it's not strength at all, it's acceptance. You've stopped waiting to be chosen. You've chosen yourself, and that choice has changed everything. You know now that loneliness was never your punishment, it was your passage. It wasn't meant to destroy you, but to prepare you. Every empty night, every unanswered message, every moment you felt unseen, it was all carving space inside you for something purer, quieter, truer. You see it clearly now. The loneliness wasn't emptiness. It was a doorway. It was life whispering, "Come back to yourself." Because you cannot find belonging in the world until you first belong within your own skin. And isn't it beautiful how something that once felt unbearable has now become your anchor? You no longer fear being alone because you've discovered the sacredness of your own presence. You no longer chase love because you've become it. You no longer cling to things that drain you because peace has become your highest priority. There's a softness in your eyes now, a grounded warmth in your voice. You carry the calm of someone who has walked through the storm and stopped needing the sun to shine in order to feel whole. You've become your own light. And maybe that's what Jung really meant, not that loneliness is comfortable, but that it's necessary. It is the chrysalis before your wings, the silence before your song, the darkness before your dawn. You are not broken. You were breaking open. So if you're listening to this right now, feeling that quiet ache in your chest, wondering if you'll ever feel understood again, take heart. You are not falling apart. You are falling into yourself. You are being remade by life in the most sacred way possible. Let yourself soften. Let yourself be still. Let the silence do what noise never could bring you home. And when you finally rise from that stillness, you'll carry a peace that can't be shaken, a love that doesn't need permission, and a wholeness that can't be taken away. Because once you've met yourself, truly met yourself, you realize you were never alone at all. You were always surrounded by the presence of something infinite, patient, and kind. You've simply learned how to listen. So thank you for walking this path with me, for allowing yourself to feel deeply, to breathe through the ache, and to stay until the end. If these words touch something inside you, if they reminded you that your loneliness has meaning, then stay close. Subscribe if you haven't already. Leave your heart in the comments if it spoke to you. Share this with someone who's quietly trying to find their way home. You never know who might need the reminder that they are not broken, they are evolving. Take a deep breath. Feel it. You made it through.